Testing. Du ramte rigtigt. Er det okay lydniveau? Eller skal jeg bruge stemme? Welcome everyone to Applied AI Lunch Talk, the last one of the year. And lucky for some of my colleagues, we had a little mic hiccup, so that allowed people to come in. Also welcome to those of you who are joining us online. You'll have the opportunity to ask your questions in the chat, and we'll post those questions after the talk. And of course, those of you who are present live, you can also ask questions live and network a little bit afterwards. My name is Camilla Nørgaard Jensen. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of the Pioneer Center for AI, and I also work here at DTU Skylab, where we're hosting and live streaming from. This is going to be the last Applied AI Lunch Talk of the fall. We've learned a lot. Those of you who have been here throughout the fall, we've learned how you can harness AI to enhance learning. We've learned that from Marius Kortsen from ChatTutor. We've also learned about how to uncover hidden cost with AI. And we've learned about how AI can help digitalize old school industries and how it can help fight scams and bad AI with good AI. Today we're going to learn about what kinds of agile methods that are suitable to drive AI innovation processes. We were also supposed to learn about how it could be used even before birth, but unfortunately one of our speakers fell sick. So I hope we'll have that to look forward to next year. If you are hungry for more inspiration and more knowledge about AI, you can scan the big QR code, and you can access previous talks as well. All of these will be available online. After the talk, I'm going to share what dates we've lined up for the spring semester. So look forward to that, and I'll also share an opportunity to nominate potential AI speakers that you'd like to hear from. We talked about it earlier, and Francesc called it the ønskeskyen for Applied AI Lunch Talk, so there's an opportunity there. But now I'd like to give the stage and the microphone to Francesc from Danish Crown, where he's the head of data science, and he's going to share about their methods for accelerating innovation with AI.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. I'm also sorry that the other speaker is not here, so you will have to bear with me a bit long time. It is what it is. I'm not going to talk a lot about fancy AI or nothing like that, unfortunately, today. I'm going to talk a bit more about the reality of AI and machine learning and data science specifically when we talk about a big corporation like Danish Crown. Since I have to have a quick talk, I didn't really introduce myself or anything, but I guess we're going to have that afterwards as well. So today I'll speak about what the Agile development process looks at Danish Crown, how that has, of course, some pros, some cons, so how we can try to tackle the cons we can see in Agile development with some innovation. So how is Agile like an innovation? And how we have actually explored this innovation process in the data science team, which is the team that I lead, with some of the ideas that we have worked on before, and the current ones that we have, and some final food for thought at the end of the presentation. So this is going to be a heavy pair of slides, and not in the mathematical way, unfortunately. So just let's get ready to what portfolio management looks like at Danish Crown. And I will also admit it's the first time I'm doing a presentation that is not technical in the perspective of AI, but rather management and change, which is also, I guess, interesting enough. So if we look at what portfolio management looks like at Danish Crown today, there's these 6 stages. From funnel to the closure, I guess, another stage, but it's closing the whole process. But so how we go from an idea from the business or what a business needs to an actual implementation in a process, which can be data, can be software, can be building a new machine, a new robot, whatever. It does not have to be specifically data or AI specific. So if we look a bit into more details, so somebody in the business has an idea, has a problem, needs help, This person needs to go through these stages called funnel and review, in which then the idea needs to be assessed in terms of complexity and in terms of whether we can actually do it in-house or not. And this is very simplified, but this process is often very lengthy. And of course, if you don't have the capacity in-house to do whatever that the business might need, then of course the gate approval is rejected, right? But in case of the having everything in place for what's needed, and there's a clear objective, there's a clear key results, then we can go to the analysis stage, in which case then we have to assess what departments need to actually collaborate in this to actually make sure that we can develop and deliver a solution. Because it can be that it's, well, we need the production domain because it's in the factories, we need the data domain because there's some data involved, and we might need some front-end developers because then there needs to be a UI or a web application that needs to be developed. So that's in the analysis part. And then within each of the departments or each of the domains, then there will be, of course, implementation in what we call epics and features, then the user stories, which is in the backlog, which is Agile terminology. I will not get into the details. What it looks like on a day-to-day development, this is from the Agile framework website. And I think the important part is on the bottom here to the left. So of course the teams, for example, data science team. So we do something every quarter called PI planning, where we get the request from the business and we try to assess what do we need to do to develop this solution from end to end. That's what we do in PI planning, which ends up in a backlog. And then within what we call this PI iteration, then we try to develop everything that we actually are trying to deliver for the specific case. An example, so we are currently developing a demand forecasting solution for sales department. So all the process, I don't know how familiar people maybe here or online are with Danish Crown, but we own almost every brand in the supermarket. So there's a lot of products that we need to know when and where are they going to be sold and how much, because then that can facilitate, of course, production planning. It can also help sales and making better deals, and it can also make sure that we have enough people working in the factories when the sausages or the julepostei or your the Christmas peak is also ready for the supermarkets for next week, right? So we're working on that project. That project comes from the business. The business had a baseline forecast, which is built within the SAP business warehouse solution. It's not great. That's why we're building a new one. But it's a process that, of course, it starts because there's a reason. There's a business need behind this. They have, let's say, an accuracy of 50% on the forecast. They want to have it up because there's, of course, a benefit in having a better forecast. And I will also not go into details into that. There's a lot of documentation on every percentage points improvement in forecasting solutions is actually revenue that goes into the company instead. That was a long process, and I really try to summarize it as better as I can, because I've worked with Agile for 7-8 years, I think. So I worked with full-on Agile when I was at Lego, and I also, of course, continue doing that now and Danish Crown. And sometimes it also gets the best of me, and I get also sometimes a bit tired of it because you end up like a hamster in a wheel. You end up just working on shippable increments, and at the end of the day, what that means is basically you are just working on bug fixing because the forecasting model failed because somebody updated the data in the wrong way, and that's how it goes. And I also stopped to think. I became a manager for the data science team 2 years ago. Would I like to be in a job position in which everything, 90% of my time, is bug fixing? When I'm hired as a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, a data engineer? Definitely not. I think that's the most boring part of our jobs. That's maybe I would rather have a software developer, and then I have them, fix these problems that might occur every now and then, right? The problem is we don't have any other way of getting projects, or we didn't, at least. So how we make sure that we can balance developing what the business needs against what we also know is out there in the universities, in archive, in GitHub, that we know can actually also deliver value, because we are technical people that understand what we are reading online. So that's what I think the missing link was when I started as a leader in Danish Crown, is that we don't have any innovation. I have very high paid people working on bug fixing in production, which is probably less than ideal, right? So how we tackled that is that we started something we named the Incubation Hub. And actually I got the inspiration for the name for my time at Lego. There was also an incubation team there. So I thought the name was quite cool. So again, what I just explained, right? So basically, this agile process, the business has a problem, like a forecast that is mediocre, maybe we can make it better, sure, but it's not a significant growth in the value chain for Danish Crown, right, or for any company in general, basically. But rather, if we try to come up with new ideas that fit the company's perspective. Of course, I'm not going to go and develop a self-driving vehicle at Danish Crown because we don't have any vehicles, at least not yet. And the pigs, they can just walk by themselves. So we need to try to develop new ideas. We need to try to come with our suggestions. And the important part, I think, and it's also what I ask when I hire people, is that I need people that are curious in mind, people that are eager to learn, people that are eager to challenge me, challenge my boss, and challenge everyone above them, because that's how we're actually going to make things that are interesting, and that's how you're going to make your job interesting as well. So maybe you could see it in a way, mixing academia together with the business, right? And of course, so what is the purpose of the Incubation Hub? And that's also how we sell it to the business today, is basically, well, we are trying to give you a competitive advantage before you even know you need that competitive advantage. Because they don't know. They have a process, and they want to improve the process. But what if I go to them and say, well, maybe you should actually completely change the process. Maybe you should do it completely differently. So radical change is of course, it's easier to say than to do. But it just requires a mentality change in the right people. And people are actually starting to buy in also in what we're saying. Of course, it's also a mindset change, right? You don't have the big boss coming in his blue suit telling you this is what we need. You have the developer that comes in Adidas sweatshirts and says, I think this could be the next gold nugget. And you're like, okay, well, that's good. So we actually have changed how we work in the data science team, Danish Crown. So we would rather have failing fast proof concepts than long-lasting bug fixes in production. And we are actually also celebrating when we do a proof of concept or an idea and actually we fail on that, because we think, well, it's a dead end. So we tried, we know we tried, we document this, and then we continue, we move forward. And it's also important, and this is forward to the business, of course, that what we can deliver as value today in terms of Agile, it also should be balanced equally with what we can deliver with innovation ideas that might take maybe 2, 3, 5 years to even become a product. When we started this initiative, we actually integrated these ways of working, you could say, into our Agile ways of working. Because that way we ensure that it had transparency across all levels, that, well, the data science team is actually working on implementing new ideas. What that means, well, it might be nothing, because we might fail miserably, but it can also mean that, you know, maybe we found the next hidden gem. Go to the business who might be interested in actually buying this. Is it marketing? Is it retail? Is it production? Finance? There are unlimited people who I can speak with. Did they like it? Do they think we should do something different? Well, then, you know, pivot. But what about that time, that point in time when they say, this could actually be something. This one we should actually be delivering. And then this is when you actually can combine it together with the Agile setup, right? So when the business thinks that an idea is mature enough, seems valuable enough, and you can actually build a business case around it, that's when it actually integrates with the product backlog, which is the Agile backlog. And then it becomes part of the hamster wheel again. So that's how we try to generate value with ideas coming from basically all levels, from student workers, interns, to senior and lead data scientists. That was for the theory, and now we go to the fun part, which is, of course, what have we done and what has succeeded, what has failed miserably. I guess, spoiler alert, there are more ideas that have failed miserably than some that have succeeded. And that's also part of the learning. I'm not afraid of sharing that we failed a lot. I know maybe some professors are not agreeing with this, but it's okay. The first idea we actually even started with, we of course are a huge company. We are, I guess, market leader in Denmark, but also in Poland, in Sweden, in Germany. We have, pardon my French, a shit ton of data in terms of electricity, gas, all the resources that we consume in our factories, even in our headquarters in Randers. This data today, it's been used to do a Power BI report where they can share how sustainable we are. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, that seems like a waste, because we have electricity data measured on the minute. So why would you not want to do something more interesting than that, right? And of course, the first idea we had, because we've done a lot of this before, forecasting. Can we actually get energy, could be any of the energy sources, electricity or gas or even waste? Can we try to do some forecasting on this data daily, weekly, monthly, yearly? Would that allow us to maybe generate better contracts if we, with our, for example, electricity provider? Would it be better for us to assess whether different production sites are working better or worse than others, or are they deviating from what it was 2-3 years ago? Does it make sense? We also, I guess, a very clear case, anomaly detection. Funnily enough, even doing this initial proof of concept, this is 2 years ago, I think it was, or 1.5 years ago that we did. Even doing the proof of concept, we found a clear outlier or a clear anomaly in the data, right? Apparently there was like a failure in this factory that caused that the whole electricity was down. And nobody knew. Well, I guess the people in the factory knew, but everybody else around, nobody knew. So this was a clear case that, well, anomaly detection, everybody does it. So why couldn't we, right? We also had some ideas, like, for example, clustering based on data. So a lot of our factories do the same. Do they consume the same? Or do they consume equally to what they are actually outputting? So it could also be a way to identify where should we focus more in improving our factories rather than always improving the one that's working best, because the one that's working best is already working best. So why spend money to maybe improve what is not necessarily broken, right? So these were all the ideas we had just with this data that is used in a beautiful Power BI report. There were multiple departments involved in conversations here. Status, well, forecasting and clustering, we did not manage to find the right people to speak with. Nobody really showed interest in that, and it's maybe also fair enough. We probably run some sort of contract. Because again, we don't know anything about the business, right? So we don't know how they consume or generate this electricity management. Anomaly detection actually raised more interest. And then we tried to move forward in Denmark with this, going rather than on a factory level or line level, going to a machine level. The problem is that at the time we did that, there was no such measures available for us in the cloud for us to actually be able to work with this. So it was a bit of a, that was a pity. But funnily enough, we also presented these results to our company in Poland, which is called Sokolo. And that was 3 weeks ago, so it's also quite lucky that I can say this. And they were extremely interested because they have 8 factories in Poland where they also know nothing, and they know that things go crazy more often times than not, and they don't know why, and they don't know how to stop it. So anomaly detection would be something clear for them to implement and actually be able to manage and understand when and why things or outages are happening, for example. So this is something we are going to be talking with them from the next year. We just need to figure out how to use the data that they have available. An idea that I added when I started this project was something that I also did when I was at Lego. It's, well, social media, right? That is the best place for advertisement for a company, probably more bad advertisement than good advertisement. But any advertisement is good. It's just a matter of knowing that it's happening, right? So here what we did is we have a setup that says, okay, what's the sentiment online for a specific case? Like, let's say, can we say Danish Crown in general? Could we say one of our brands like Steph Holber, Girl? Can we say, when we did the analysis, we just released that Burger Boost product, which is, it became quite popular and a lot of people were talking about it. So we used data from Reddit, which because it's free, you know, when you do POC, free is good. Google News was also free. Twitter, we're not talking about that today. So of course, what we managed to do is, again, this is super easy. There's no data science, there's no AI, there's no crazy ChatGPT llama model in here doing anything crazy. It's just, you know, analyzing what people are talking about us online. Funnily enough, when we did this idea, when we were working on this, that's when this greenwashing case happened in the court here in Denmark. I don't know if anybody remembers. That's 1.5 years ago as well, I think, where we got, yeah, it was not good marketing we did back in the day, where we called it a green peak. It was not green. So that's what people were complaining about online, and we actually saw it, and that was also, it was a good thing to see bad things, I guess. We also could do some analysis, like, what do people think about Steph Holver against Langelena, which is our main competitor when it comes to sausages. And of course, it's also hard to say, and I think the problem we had in this idea is that Danish Crown is not Lego. People don't really talk that much about sausages like they talk about, you know, Lego. Surprise, right? But I think what we took out of there is that, well, for the Steph Holver, we had like over 700 to 800 hits on some words, whereas Langelena was less pronounced. But yeah, cause and effect, we don't really know what was the issue, and it was also hard to say, right? And say, well, is this good or is it bad? I think one of the words that they are talking about is toilet paper. Yeah, no comments on that. So this idea, as you can maybe also see, right, it's very, very broad. So we presented it to retail, to food service marketing. We iterated over it. Food service marketing, actually, they came to us and said, this is actually quite interesting. Would you like to see what people think about pepperoni pizza in one of the biggest supermarket, not supermarket, but restaurants chains in the UK? Because that could also tell us, well, if they like the pepperoni pizza in this restaurant in the UK, they like our pepperoni, because we are one of the, or we are the top producer of pepperoni in Europe. Super specific case, we went to Reddit UK. People talk about everything but the quality of the pepperoni, because it's also, you could say it's a fast food chain. So yeah, I don't think anybody in here maybe has ever gave a good review about McDonald's, probably either. So it's the same thing. Here we also talk with them and say, well, if you wanted analysis on a specific supermarket or restaurants, probably Trustpilot, TripAdvisor, Google reviews, all of those could maybe be more significant to actually understand, you know, the sentiment people have to a specific product within a product, right? Those are all under paywall. So that stopped a bit the communication, because there was really no advancement from our side. So we also talked with the social media team, which I think also in the past couple of years they've been very, very active in social media, specifically on Instagram. Back in the day when we spoke with them, we were paying for a tool in-house. I don't remember the name, but that tool, I got actually insights into it, and I also got access to it. It basically did what I'm showing here. And I was like, wow, okay, it's a great start. Of course, they had a lot more data sources, but it was also a paid tool, right? That tool is now not in use anymore. I don't know why, but that's actually maybe our way in. And during next year, we are actually kickstarting this idea again to reach back to the people, because just because an idea failed doesn't mean it's dead. You just need to wait. And maybe you don't know, but we had a new CEO and a new board of directors. We fired a ton of people last year. So probably it was not the best time to ask for money and get funding for an idea that, well, maybe the team I'm talking with is not here tomorrow, you know. So yeah, I think 2026 is going to be a year where we get over these ideas again and try to see who's left, who's where, and can this actually now benefit? Now that we are less people, this actually should be more beneficial as well. Product mapping, another idea, and this one came from my personal opinion, and that's because I think all sausages in the supermarket are bad. I don't like the sausages in the supermarket, ultra processed foods, and I think that they are all super fatty, super salty, and super unhealthy. So you know, I said, well, now that I work in Danish Crown, you know, probably I should have access to the data. No, nobody has the data in one place, obviously, because why would they? So what we did here is that project that I mentioned before, that we are talking about the demand forecasting, so sales forecasting in retail Denmark. We got all the data from there, which means we get all the SKUs, all the sausages from all the brands, all their sales. And with that, I can actually get access to some PDF files that we have, where actually ingredient list and nutritional values are shown. And because they are PDFs, then we actually went ahead and we also used OpenAI in Azure, because we are an Azure company or a Microsoft company. And we did this combination of data just to see, you know, what happens. And well, I was right, unfortunately. If the quadrant where all the circles are, it's high fat, high salt, which is something that I guess the World Health Organization suggests that you don't eat too much of. The gray circles, those are these Nøglehjul products from Rema 1000. So they have some sausages from us that are healthier. I would not say healthy, but they are healthier. And then the size of the circles are also representing, you know, the amount of sales. And here in the bottom, you can see we did, of course, a lot of other analysis, right, to see what is the meat percentages, what are the proteins. The idea we had here is, are we actually covering the whole market share? And I guess the clear answer, at least from the top graph, is that we are not, because all of our sausages, doesn't matter whether it's Steff Holbau, it's Gull, Tulip, private labels from all sorts of names and supermarkets, they are all in the same place. So if I were a person in marketing, I would say, why don't we try to develop a high protein sausage, or I don't know, a child-friendly sausage, for example, with less salt and things like that, right? So there is maybe a lot of aspects here that you could try to combine. We also had the idea of combining this with our competition, right? Where are they located against us in these sort of charts? And then can we try to, you know, steal the market share from them, right? Because that's what gives money in the company, right? It's getting over your competitors. It's not being nice to each other. The idea we actually presented to categories team, and yeah, there's a lot of teams in Danish Crown, so that's no surprise. For the sausage team, and actually they also thought it was super interesting, so they spoke with categories for cold cuts, specifically the brand called Den Grønne Slagter, which maybe you know. It's the brand that is branded as the healthy option, or the healthy alternative. We also did analysis, exactly the same. It was the healthier option. I will not remove that from them. And then, I feel like I repeated myself a lot here, but the problem here was that the whole department was shut down. So it was a bit of a pity that we didn't really have any closure here. And actually, we are taking over this again in 2026. Maybe you can think, well, there's really no AI, there's no machine learning here happening, right? It's just data analysis and data wrangling, right? True. So the idea, if it were to continue and develop further, it could probably end up in the backlog of another of the teams within the data department. So, for example, we have a team called Insights Hub. They do all the insights in all sorts of data sources, right? And they present these fancy Power BIs. That could be an option. More ideas, and this one comes from, of course, my personal love and career background, which is computer vision. That's where I come from. I don't come from time series and all of this. I had to get used to that and at Danish Crown. But here, and when I was hired into Danish Crown, I had one clear scope. It was to create a computer vision roadmap for the factories, which I failed miserably with because nobody trusted me and wanted to fund me. So that's also not good. Until we got actually hands into a camera. So there's a new setup we have developed in all our factories. It's a third-party company that is doing it for us, that they delivered sensors, and they actually started now delivering cameras as well. So we said, could we actually get into your cameras, which are edge devices, to do actual AI and machine learning in the factories, right? It's true. Two birds with one stone. We can support the factories with cameras, and we can actually start finally developing our internal computer vision portfolio. One example, this is where we started working. This is Danish frikadello or meatballs, which we produce in Aalborg, in the north of Denmark. Funnily enough, I found this video on LinkedIn at some point, and I was like, this could be a good starting point for trying out our idea. And the guy that owns the work with this third party, he said, sounds great, I'll just put a camera there so you can go and play around. It's like, yes, you see, you need more people like that. So what we first did is actually, when the camera was installed, we, super basic, there's no magic happening there, it's just computer vision using OpenCV. Can we actually count how many meatballs are generated or produced? You will maybe see that, of course, the output is not perfect, but it is a huge step for us to be able to get data from a factory, use it for a computer vision application, and deliver an output to the business. So this idea is actually currently being developed today. We are still working on it. This because we got it approved in March. Something happened with the camera delivery. It came in August, and then that's when we started actually working with this. So yeah, innovation takes time sometimes. So now we're working on this. We are finished labeling data because we can now we want to do a fine-tuning of a deep learning model. I think it's going to be, I'm not sure if it's going to be YOLO or faster RCNN because it's the default ones as well in Azure as well. Of course, counting and tracking is maybe super simple, but it's also one of the lacks. So the solution that this third party delivers is actually a counting sensor, but it's of course a linear sensor. So what happens when you have 8 meatballs in one line, but you can see the picture or the video on the left side, right? The meatballs are very straight, but on the right side, that's not the reality in most cases, right? So you need to be able to make sure that you know how many meatballs are being produced per second, minute, or whatever. So of course, counting is a requirement from these cameras, and that's why they're developing cameras as well. But we also say, well, could we actually try to measure their shape? If we know what SKU is being produced, we know that maybe this fricadella is this, I don't know, lunch fricadella from Tulip, which is small and round, or maybe it's the other one, like in the video on the right side, that is a bit more elongated. Well, then you can actually make some quality control on the fly. You could also, we're also looking into, can we actually measure, the cookedness in a way? So are they all uniformly brown? Or are they all uniformly in the same color range, right? Again, it's not advanced AI, but it gives a lot of insights to the business and to the production facilities as well. So idea tracking, of course, we don't just have ideas in the top of our heads. We store them in our Agile tool, I guess. Yeah, like Atlassian or Azure DevOps. And this is the ideas that we currently have. I took a screenshot just before coming, just so it was updated. And I think so. Yeah, I think what's interesting here is quite a few of the ideas were inputted by some of the student workers we had last semester. So this is what I think is super important, right? So get student workers and get interns into your company, right? Because they come with a lot of new ideas and fresh ideas, things they learn at university, right? That maybe you haven't even thought of, right? So we'll be working more on all of this. And I heard that I have 1 minute left. So closing remarks. I think what the key for everyone maybe to understand, right, is that innovation is responsibility for everybody. It's not just we have an agile process, that's what we need to follow. I would say go and challenge that. Maybe you will make some enemies on the way, but I think I can talk, with 2 years of experience on the change, it actually pays off. Make sure that, everyone invests in-house, right? And we are also seeing this problem now that some of the companies that deliver things to us, maybe machine learning related, camera vision related, now they are going out of business. So who's taking care of that in the future? Well, nobody knows, because nobody has actually cared in investing it in-house until now. So yeah, invest before it's too late. I'll just continuous improvement combined with bold steps. So again, Agile is important, but innovation is also important, right? So just make sure that everything is combined together in one or another way. And encourage dialogue, right? So act. Don't just, let ideas flow off of topic and let people just, get lost in bug fixing all day long. That's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a super interesting talk. I want to open the floor for questions, both from the room and online, if there are any burning questions there. Otherwise, I see there is some online for sure.
I'm sorry, I took a bit longer than I should have. I can say that.
All good.
Yes, we do have a question online, and thank you for a really interesting presentation. So it's Stephen Hall who are asking, how do you balance trial and product maintenance when you report to the management? Yeah,
that's a very good question as well. And that was one of the first challenges I think that we had, right? Because who takes the fall if everything goes wrong, right? That's maybe also the good question, right? And the answer, it's me. I took the responsibility to say, I'm going to let my people spend some of our 40-hour a week on developing ideas and trying at the cost of we might be able to deliver less on the agile process. But I think my boss at that time, they trusted on the instincts and then they thought it was a good idea. So I mean, you need to have the support from your leadership team as well, because otherwise they are going to look at you wrong and you're going to be delivering and nobody's going to like that.
Thank you for providing a lot of context to the work that you do and giving us insight on how to manage and to navigate in a very complex organization. I was thinking about the data team is a common problem. You have a data team, they are very skilled, and then you have the business, they are also skilled, but do they come together? And to take an expression from Jan from D2 Compute, to educate, of course, deep knowledge people, master students, inside to
Mm-hmm.
they have to bring that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
probably one that needs to bring this business knowledge into your team. But do you see that the team members on your team are also can work together with the business side by side, instead of having the management always try to bridge that gap between scientific knowledge and business knowledge?
Yeah, so maybe I can rephrase the question just in case that somebody. So yeah, so whether, I guess, new students coming out fresh of university, right? Whether they have the capabilities to work and collaborate with the business in the right way, right? That's yeah. I think that's more of team building sort of exercise. At least that's what I take into me. I try to always hire people from different backgrounds and with different experiences, right? So right now in the team, I actually have a guy that studied here in DTU. He did his master in DTU in autonomous vehicles, I think it's called. And I have a guy from economics. And then I have one from electrical engineering and another one from business and marketing. So I'm trying to balance their background knowledges together to be able so that everyone can pitch in and be the key representative when it comes to talking with the different sort of businesses. Otherwise, I think generally I think it varies a lot, also depending on the business person you're speaking with, because if the person has some understanding of data and maybe of software or at least to some extent, it's easier to communicate for whoever it is. But we also have the cases, of course, in Danish Crown, there's a lot of people that have been working there for many years. Maybe they come from being farmers themselves, so these technicalities they don't understand, right? So it's always a bit more complicated, and sometimes, yeah, it's better to have somebody else pitching from maybe from my side, for example.
I'm gonna see if we can get through some of the online questions, because we have a few, and if not, I'll share them with you, and you can share in the chat online as well. So if we can get a somewhat quick answer to this one, and I'll get the mic to you afterwards. Okay. So Juan says, "Great talk. What specific metrics or kill criteria do you use to decide when an experiment has run its course without success?"
I think when the conversation with the business dies. So, of course, there's a lot of departments and business units at Danish Crown, right, that you could try to sell it, but it is, if you're talking about, let's say, a marketing idea, you're not going to try to sell marketing idea to economy, an economy department, right? So you also need to understand when to stop. I think it's a bit of, yeah, you feel it. It's hard to say, but you feel it as, in how the conversations progress, actually.
All right, yeah. So more of an organizational question. How are you organized? What's the operating model of the incubation hub? And I understand that you are incubation hubs, you're following, you're kind of focusing on very early stage, and you have to go to your internal customers with a pitch quite quickly. Mm-hmm. So can you elaborate a little bit more, like what's your mandate? Like, I understand that you do not have your own budget as such, or like in other words, how far can you take, you know, the validation before you have to go to your internal customer? Because I mean, mm-hmm. there is a risk of a too early kill if you cannot kind of pitch this properly to them.
Because we combine it with the Agile setup, then we run sprints. So we say 1 to 2 sprints, aka 2 to 4 weeks. That's when the first demo should be presented to the business. Yeah, we do have. For example, so if the business comes and says, well, I like the idea, could you maybe rework it instead of sausages to be cold cuts? We also do that. That's part of the incubation. But then, of course, if they need a productionized solution, right? So how do we go to, you know, from one time to like forever, for example, solution, right? Then that then would have to go through the other path. So having a business case and then having a bag of money, of course.
Yeah, but you are dependent from them from the very early.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As compared to like innovation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think I'll have to stop the questions now, but we can take more offline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And let me just share a few slides about what we're up for in 2026. If you want to, you can either email me or you can go to this form that's connected to the QR code. If you have wishes for who you'd like to hear, or if you want to be an applied AI lunch talk speaker, maybe you have some cool initiatives that you'd like to share about, then that's definitely an option. So either you email me and say, can you get these people on the stage? Or if you are those people, you can share, of course, the link to our form with them. Then they can apply to be one of the spring speakers. We already have the, this was in case you needed something to look at over Christmas break, more AI, but I already have the dates for the spring. So jot them into your calendar, and soon we'll also provide sign-up links for it. So without further ado, thank you so much, Francesc, for coming and letting us into the machine room of Danish Crown.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for good questions.
Yeah, thank you.